Greetings. May I interest you in a lemon? Then we will beseech the almighty Magic 8-Ball. It is the Magic 8-Ball that guides us along the path of our oncoming future. The Magic 8-Ball reveals all truths. We worship the Magic 8-Ball. Oh. How do you guys, like my Emu cosplay? I think I get the no face look down. I think it works. Okay, well, not last year, actually 2 years ago, closer to it, July 2017, I had my World Government Explained video, where I delve into the, the government type. It's like an oligarchy, being led by a small group of people, or so we thought, the Gorosei, talking about Monarchies, talking about the world nobles and everything, but, there have been some developments since then. Maybe not quite as silly as praising the glory of the Magic 8-Ball, but it's a little weirder than what we originally thought, okay? Because you gotta figure, for a long, long time, Oda set up the world government like this. You got the Marines, and then you got the higher echelon of the Marines, like the Fleet Admiral that rules over all of it. Then you got the Commander-in-Chief, who is Kong, who's kind of in charge of the Cipher Pole and the Warlords and the Marines, and he's sort of like the mediator between, like, the upper echelon, like the royalty of Monarchies, and, like, the lower levels, like the Marines and everything. And then you get to the world government itself at Monarchies, and all of that is headed up by the Gorosei. The Gorosei were established a long time ago to be like the 5 great leaders of the world government. They rule it by committee. They're the ones that come up with all the decisions on what the Marines and everybody are going to do in the world. They're the ones that, I guess, ultimately decide who the new warlords are going to be and all that stuff. It's all controlled by the world government. It's all controlled by the Gorosei. And then, just recently, last year in Reverie, Oda throws us a freaking curveball. Whoop! And, no, it turns out that the world government doesn't just be run by a committee, it's actually run by a king. One person, and that is Emu-sama. Some people have said, don't call him Emu-sama, his name is just or Emu. Well, I'm not calling him Emu because he's not a bird. Oh, okay, this is One Piece. He could be. He very well could have the Emu zone. By the way, did you guys know that in Australia a while back, they actually fought an Emu War? That's not even an exaggeration. Like, there were too many emus, and so they had to try to eliminate the emus, and the funny thing is, human beings with modern weaponry kept failing to eliminate the emu population. Because it's like, you figure you have thousands of emus, like, what do? Do you just take out a gun and just start... You can't, I mean, there's too many, and they're gonna scatter, they're not gonna stand in one place while you just maybe launch a missile strike against them, but, you know, this is a thing that happened. Learn your history, kids. But, yeah, I'm not calling him Emu. And Emu-sama, I don't know, sounds cool. is just too brief, it's too short, it's not even it's like half a syllable, just no, Emu-sama, that's what I'm going with. And also, we don't know the gender of this person, but, I've been calling him a him for the last, year or whatever, so we're just gonna continue with that. Okay. So, from what we see, he's a very mysterious figure, because, I don't even think he's really said anything so far. We just kind of see him staring at things, like a straw hat in a giant freezer in the catacombs under Pangaea Castle, or he goes and stares at the, wanted posters of Luffy and Blackbeard, and he stares at a picture of Vivi before he walks away to stare at the empty throne before he sits at it, and he stares at the Gorosei as they walk in and kneel before him. So we gotta amend the government system that the WG is set up as, okay? So like I said, I originally set it up as an oligarchy. The 3 government types that we talked about in the last video, in the world government video, obviously there's more than just 3 types, but the 3 types that we've seen in One Piece are monarchies. I think that's the one that's the most common, because there's many kingdoms all over the land. We got the Alabasta Kingdom, we got the Dressrosa Kingdom, we got the Protons Kingdom, all that stuff. They have kings or queens, or both, that rule over an entire island, an entire kingdom in this case, because there's so many islands in One Piece. Pretty much it's broken up as like one kingdom per island. There might be a situation where you have maybe 3 or 4 islands that are all part of one central kingdom, but haven't really seen all that, too much yet. It's usually one kingdom per island. Okay, we've seen that most common. We also see some democracies, not too often, but like in Water 7, we don't really have a king or a queen. We have an elected official, in this case a mayor, who is Iceberg, that's kind of like the main central force of Water 7's government. He's the one that decides everything, and I'm assuming there was an election in Water 7, and that's how they decide their leaders. So yeah, so Water 7's not really a kingdom, it's kind of like its own little body, it's something else, okay? But it's still allied with the world government, because the world government really only cares if you can offer tribute to the Tenryubito. I think that's the deciding factor on whether or not your island becomes part of the world government. It's like, can you pay the tribute fee for the Tenryubito? And we don't know what that fee is. It might be a static number that every island has to pony up the exact same amount, or it might go by that island's economy, depending on how large the island is, how many people live there. It might have like a different number depending on the island or the kingdom. But if you can pony up that number and you can give them the tribute, then they'll let you join the world government. At that point, I think they would probably mostly let you have whatever government you wanted. Like, if you want to have a monarchy, fine, go ahead. If you want to have a democracy, fine, go ahead. Who cares? It's all right. But as long as you understand that you are part of the world government now, so yeah, you can play around with whatever government system you want, but at the end of the day, you answer to us. So if we issue you an order, you listen to us, and if you don't, well, that could cause some problems for you. You ever hear about an island called O'Hara? Yeah. So yeah, obviously the world government has a lot of resources and a lot of weaponry backing it, and an entire military backing it, really, that they control completely. So they're basically giving every kingdom in the world an ultimatum. You can either join us or not. If you don't join us, then we're not going to lend you any aid or assistance. If pirates attack your island and kidnap everybody and burn your villages down, we're not going to lift a finger. The Marines are not going to help you, okay? But if you do join us, keep in mind, you got to pay a lot of money, and if you can't keep the payments up, then you're out immediately, and you also have to listen to everything we say, even if it goes against the beliefs of your king or your queen or your mayor or whoever, your president, whoever leads you. You got to do what we say, because, you know, we're the world government. So that's basically the ultimatum. And really, with this most recent Reverie, we get to see more than anything the pageantry of all this. How they do this thing called the Reverie every 4 years, where they get all these world leaders together, giving the illusion to the rest of the world at large, like, oh, look at the world government. Aren't they so just? Aren't they so fair? Once every 4 years, all the kings of all the lands get together to sit down and talk about world events, and they make decisions on the world based on everybody's input. Isn't that just awesome? The world government's so cool. There's not even a one leader of the world government. They knew that not one person could just rule over everything, so that's why the Gorosei, this group of people, you know, decide on, you know, what to do with the world. But it's not just the Gorosei, it's everybody. It's so great, isn't it? No, just bam, that is like that's like a truckload. Not even a truckload, that's like a Big Mom-sized load of hypocrisy right there, from what we find out. Number one, the Gorosei, you get the impression they really don't care about what the kings and queens talk about at Reverie. I mean, they mention Cobra, and they say, oh yeah, Nefertari Cobra, he's asking for an audience with us, and he's bringing up some things that we're not really fans of. So, yeah, you think they're gonna listen to Cobra? Like, well, thank you, Nefertari Cobra, for your opinions and your input. We'll definitely look into it for you. No, they would either just kick Alabasta out of the world government, or an accident would befall Cobra, and be like, oh, well, he's gone, and sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, hey, Vivi, you're the new queen of Alabasta, you better listen to us from now on. You know, that's what they'll do. And then at the very end of Reverie, you find out the biggest hypocrisy of it all, you know, whereas you look at all these kingdoms all over the world, and it's like, okay, the kings and queens rule these lands, but the world government seems to be, like, even more superior than that. Like, they're better than the rest of the kingdoms, because it's not just one person. It's a committee, but then you find out it isn't. It really is a one person that rules over everything, to the point where it might as well be a totalitarian dictatorship, where whatever Eem decrees to the Gorosei, they make happen. The way they bow to Eem at the end of that chapter, where he's sitting on the empty throne, the way they pay reverence to him, as if he is like a nigh deity, basically, on the mortal plane, you know, like he is our god, essentially. From their perspective, he might very well be. The same that, like, Eneru's subordinates literally viewed him as a god. You know, they might view Eem as a deity, and they might be like, we will do whatever you say. If Eem is like, I want you to eliminate that island, wipe it off the map, and the Gorosei will be like, yes, it will be carried out. I want you also to enact a cleansing in the world. Yes, sir, it will be taken care of in grand style. Now, the Gorosei are good at you know, making it seem like just a natural occurring thing. Like, they're not just going to immediately go out and eliminate an island. They're going to make it look like it was, you know, it was the duty of the world government to eliminate that island. They'll make it look like, oh yes, well, we did have to eliminate that island. We had to Buster Call it out of existence, but they were committing illegal activities there. They were reading poneglyphs, or pirates were stationed there, or it was some other. They were trying to threaten the glory of the world government. They were trying to threaten the Marines, so therefore we had to wipe them out. The Gorosei would spin it like that, you know, whenever they're going to be doing. But at the end of the day, it is just pageantry. It's just an illusion. The world government is not an oligarchy. The world government is not a democracy. The world government is not even really a monarchy, if we're being honest. It is a totalitarian dictatorship. Okay, and you know what? Even getting it to like the next level of it, because I mean, there are dictatorships, but then there are like dictatorships. Okay, like there are some dictatorships that, you know, don't have like a super strict hold on everything, you know, but then you get things like Hitler's Germany, or the Soviet Union run by Stalin, or right now a current example would be the Kim dynasty in North Korea, where you got like this cult of personality going on, and that's where things get really trippy. The cult of personality shit, when we start getting to like, oh yes, our dear leader is superior to every other human being because he is like ascended to the next plane, like he is basically a god walking the earth with us. We pay reverence to our dear leader. Like that's the kind of cult of personality kind of crap we're getting with Im-sama, you know, big time, you know, where the Gorosei are these supreme leaders. They pretty much control the day-to-day operations of the world government. I'm sure it's not a thing where it's like Im is just like the project leader of the Gorosei. Like if you were working in an office building and the big boss comes down and gives you the responsibility, like, okay, Matt, you're going to work with this group of people to get this project done on time, and you're the team leader. It's not like you can walk in and be like, hello team, I was just decreed the team leader, so 100% of everything I say you must do. That's not how it works, okay? So it's not like Im and the Gorosei get together every day for a meeting in a conference room and they bust out the clipboards and it's like, all right, so, Samurai Gandhi, do you have anything to introduce, any new news? And be like, yes, well, it seems here that the Marines are requesting new funds for their battleships. Now, this goes along with the second quarter of this year. Funding is, you know, a little bit more, but we can push it more, you know, if you want it to. Im, can you sign off on this for the funding for the battleships? Im's not going to do that crap. He's not doing, like, the day-to-day operations, signing papers, you know, all that crap. Here's what Im does. Im chills out in his badass castle all day, every day. In Pangaea Castle, he has a giant forest just inside his castle. I'm sure he has a bunch of other crazy, immaculate rooms that only he is allowed in. He probably has a giant swimming pool that's like the size of a lake in that damn thing. Pangaea Castle itself is like the size of a mountain compared to the rest of the city. So it's like, yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of rooms in there that nobody else even knows exist. And then, you know, every now and then when he gets an idea in his head, he summons the Gorosei, he walks into the throne room, plops himself down on the freaking empty throne, Gorosei bow before him, and he's like, I was thinking the other day, Nefertari Vivi, I want her to be my wife. Yes, sir, we will carry it out at once. And like I said, the world, you know, the Gorosei are the world nobles. Keep that in mind as well. They are also part of that. I would assume, like, there are the world nobles that just live awash in luxury, and then out of the world nobles, there's a select group that are actually going to be tasked with the job of running the government, which is what the Gorosei are. But the Gorosei are, in fact, world nobles. Yeah, the Gorosei would do it in a way where it doesn't seem like they're just gonna, like, kidnap Vivi or whatever, but they're gonna have to spin it in such a way that the world government is still seen as the good guys. But whatever Im declares, he declares. If he comes out and declares a cleansing, which is what the Gorosei were talking about, it'll happen, all right? So that's kind of the cult of personality. That's the kind of dictatorship we're working with here, okay? Now, in terms of Im-sama as a person, right, we see him, we never says anything, but we see at least how he dresses. We see him wearing that very long, like, immaculate kind of cloak, you know, his royal crown, and it's not just an ordinary crown. It's not just like this. It's like a huge crown, right? And he seems to, you know, just walk in and just sit down on the throne and just put his hand here like he's done this before. Like, he's certainly not lazy. He's certainly not like he's like, I don't want to be king. Just leave me alone. I don't want to be king. You just do everything for me. No, he certainly takes pride in being royalty. Why else would he walk around wearing the crown if he didn't want to be a king, right? So he clearly does want to be a king, but he personally doesn't want his existence to be known to the world. That was probably something he decreed a long time ago to the Gorosei. Like, I do not want my existence to be known. And so the Gorosei decided to set up the facade of the oligarchy that rules the world government rather than the person Im-sama. So that's one thing he probably decreed. So why exactly doesn't he want his personal existence to be known to the world? Well, I'm sure one reason is for why I just said, you know, it's easier to trust the world government if it's not just one person in power. If it's like a group that gives a little bit more of, I guess, trust in society. It's not just because one person can become corrupt, one person can become sickly, and maybe their mind starts to go and they start making really crazy decisions, like the Mad King from Game of Thrones. Yeah, that's the situation with that, right? It's like you want to make sure that in case something like that happens, there's a fail-safe, so the person doesn't go crazy and just starts ordering the destruction of every island in the world. So it's easier to be like, oh, okay, there's a committee. And when I'm sure the Gorosei set it up, that's like if one member of the Gorosei starts getting sickly or too old, they retire and a new member joins. And that's easier to trust than just one person. Also, like I said, to kind of feel like it's a superior form of government than the rest of the world. Most of the world is a monarchy, but at Marie-Joie, it's different, okay? They're beyond just a single ruler, even though that's what they have. So that's part of the reason. I'm sure another reason is, like, Im-sama's existence itself would be causing problems because a lot of people have theorized that he is immortal because of the Eternal Youth operation from the Oppi Oppi no Mi. People have said he is a prime recipient. If anybody was going to receive this treatment, it would have been him. Probably not even like the last person that received it, because Law talked about, oh yeah, there was a doctor that had the fruit before me, and he performed the operation. That's how we know it exists, and then Law got the fruit after him. We're talking way further back than that, though. We might be talking easily back during the Void Century. The Im-sama right now could be one of the original kings from, 900 years ago. You understand, Im could be, and I just realized this the other day. I'm thinking about, like, who exactly Im could be. Like, oh, he could just be one of the kings, but no. Im could be the first Don Quixote king that was talked about in Dressrosa, the one that, like, ruled over the Tontadas. It was basically, like, their devil, and that could be one of the reasons why Doflamingo is, like, they're trying to assassinate him and impel down right now. Like, Doflamingo's laughing, like, I know a secret! He knows because it's part of his family. The original Don Quixote king is Im-sama still ruling 900 years after the fact because he received the Oppi Oppi no Mi. That could also tie back to why Doflamingo wanted Law to perform it on him. See? It's possible. It's totally possible, Doflamingo learns about its power, and he's like, I want that power for myself. That's why he got Law and everything, So yeah, not 100%, obviously. It could have just been one of the other kings. It might be somebody else completely different. It might be Joy Boy, because we don't even know the whole story with Joy Boy. We like to think Joy Boy was like a good guy, but we have no idea what his story is like, He could have been brainwashed at some point. Im could be a ghost. I've said that before, and if you're thinking, like, really? You think Im is a ghost? Would that really surprise you, given all the crazy abilities we have in the One Piece world? If he died, but his ghost still lives on, his soul is still stuck in Pangea Castle, maybe it can't leave, he's just stuck there, and everybody just views him as a god because he is like a supernatural being. He could have a devil fruit that allows him to, like, see the future, maybe something different from the Toki Toki no Mi, not being able to send yourself in the future, but he has the ability to see like way further in the future. He could see like all of his actions and the way they split off, and he could pick like the best one, kind of like Yuha's power from Bleach, Like, what makes him different from the dictators in our world is that when the dictators like the Kim dynasty in North Korea, they're set up as like, oh, they're better than the average human being, like they're on the next level, but at the end of the day, they're still just regular humans. But in One Piece, it's different, because in One Piece, you do have access to the fruits that give you superpowers and everything, and you got hockey, and you have all this other stuff going on. Souls and everything are confirmed to exist. The afterlife is confirmed to exist in One Piece. So you got all that stuff going on, so it might be the totalitarian authoritarian dictatorship, same deal. It's just that, well, he has this special power that lets him see the future, or he's a ghost, or he's lived for 1,000 years, so that's why we have to trust him, because he's guided us for the last millennia, or close to a millennia, about 900 years for the Void Century. He's guided us for 900 years, and he's never been wrong, so we must listen to his every will and beseech them. You know, that's how it goes there. So those are probably all the reasons why he doesn't, because imagine if his existence was known to the world. Like, oh yes, there is a supreme king of the world government, his name is Im-sama. And then like 100 years pass and people are starting to question, like, Im-sama is still alive? That's crazy. He's been king for 100 years now. Oh well, I guess he must be living. He's really well lived, you know, whatever. And then 200 years go by, 300 years go by, 400 years go by. You're passing up the life expectancy for a giant now. 500 years go by. And it's like, Im is still the king after 500 years? That means he's probably immortal, right? How the hell is our king immortal? It just causes problems. You know, people are like, I guess immortality exists. I guess eternal youth exists because the king has it. Or people would start to question, like, you know, there's no way Im could still be the king after 500 years. They have to be replacing him, you know, like the freaking, you know, groundhog at Punxsutawney every few years when Phil dies. They just swap it out with another freaking groundhog and no one is none the wiser, right? So it would just cause more questions. It's easier to just set it up like the Gorosei. And easier still to set it up like, oh yes, we also have the Grand Committee. We also have the Reverie. So every 4 years, all the kings come together and we sit around a table and we talk about world events, and to the rest of the world at large, they're like, oh, they're making decisions, what's going to be best for our individual kingdom and what's going to be best for the world at large. They're figuring out how to deal with the pirate threat. They're figuring out how to deal with the Yonko and all that stuff up there. But in reality, they're really not. The sad thing is, I'm assuming even a lot of the kings, I think Cobra might be onto this, but all of the kings, I'm just going to see if I can shove this lemon in this skull for some reason. Ah, it works! Kinda. There you go. There you go. Lemon mouth. But, I don't even know why I did that. It's like, okay, Matt, we could just stop the video for 5 seconds while you shove a lemon into a skull. It's cool, you know? How do you taste it, Brooke? I can't, it would be sour, but I don't have any taste buds. Yo! Okay, so back to it. So, I'm sure some of the kings and the queens are even like, our decisions actually matter. And I'm sure there's a moment of reverie where the Gorosei all walk in and they listen to the king's individual, like, maybe complaints or maybe, like, things that they require from the Gorosei. And the Gorosei are like, yes, yes, King Elisabello from the Providence Kingdom, we will consider this. Yes, King Dracula from the Transylvania Kingdom. Go back and look at Reverie. There are actually vampires there. Straight up vampires from I guess, some country based on Transylvania. And they're there at the Reverie table. It's crazy. You know, King Hamburg requires this, you know, but at the end of the day, once again, the Gorosei will do whatever they want. They're walking back from the meeting probably like, okay, so about that grand cleansing, you know, like, it's like, yeah, that's great, all the kings were complaining about it, let's just have another cleansing again, we've done it before, you know, and let's go see what Im thinks. And then Im is like, I approve of this. Like, all right, let's do it. Great Cleansing 3, electric giggly, you know, like, that's how it is, you know, they don't care. I think Cobra, not just Cobra, but I think other kings throughout history have also been queued up to this. They started to realize that, wait a second, this is all BS. This is not. They're not listening to us. They're doing whatever they want. They're just giving us the illusion. It's like, you know, fool your allies to fool the world, basically. Because if the world government came out and just was straight up with the kings of the world, somebody would spill the beans at some point. If you have the grand reverie gathering, the giant table, all the royalty of the world, and then the Gorosei walk out, and then Im-sama walks out, and Im is like, hello, everyone. Just to let you know, I am the supreme ruler of the world government. I always have been for the last 900 years. I am immortal, and you will do whatever I say. Now, I think some of the kings might bow to them just because of the threat, just because of the firepower that the world government has at their disposal. Like, okay, yes, you are our lord, Im-sama, but I think there'd be other kings that would not go along with it, like Cobra, and eventually there'd be, like, somebody spilling the beans, so it's easier just to fool everybody. The only people that know about Im's existence, period, are the Gorosei and probably a very, very small amount of people that would make up Im's private guards, because on top of being seen as, you know, the regal figure that he is, he probably doesn't do, he doesn't, like, start his own bathwater. He doesn't prepare his own meals. There has to be somebody that works for him that actually does all these servants that do things for him that have to know about his existence. I'm sure the Gorosei are not meeting every day in the room of authority, and then Samurai Gandhi gets up and is like, well, okay, that was a great meeting, everybody. Then he puts on an apron, like, I gotta go prepare Im-sama's dinner now, you know, and then freaking, Gorbachev, the guy with the spot on his head, he gets up and he's like, I'm gonna do some gardening in the room of flowers, you know, and then, freaking Gonfal's brother gets up and he's like, well, I'm gonna sort through his mail, you know, like, they're not gonna be the servants, and we've seen a servant. When he was in the room of flowers, a servant came to Im-sama and, like, bowed before him. He's like, Im-sama, the Gorosei are awaiting you in the throne room. So he probably has a very small amount of servants that know about his existence. I'm sure they are going to be relevant too. I wouldn't be surprised if at one point Oda just comes out and reveals, like, okay, here are the Gorosei and here are the private servants of Im, and then there's Im, and those are the only ones that know about his existence. You know, that's how that works there. Unless you want to say, like, Im really is a ghost, or he's supernatural, he wouldn't require food, or, you know, to take a bath, or sleep. He wouldn't require any of that. But so far, I'm going to debunk on him being at least a human, rather than a supernatural being. He might be an immortal human, but he would still be human, you know, and he's probably still does, like, a nice meal every now and then, I would assume. But yeah, so I think what this is leading up to, it's very possible this could happen now that Im is in the picture. We could have a moment where we find out at the end of Reverie, maybe people are starting to figure out, because Im is, Reverie's not done yet, at least where we are right now in the story. I think we're in, like, the 4th day of Reverie, but I think a day has passed since then, so we're in the 5th day of Reverie. It's possible that by the end of Reverie, there could be a whole breakdown. Like, there could be a serious breakdown, because we've already had the revolutionaries clashing with the admirals and all that stuff. There could be a breakdown where the world government just comes out and just says, enough is enough. We were kind, and we tried to play the whole game with the world. We try to seem like, oh, okay, we're fair, we're just, and we're balanced, when in reality, we could flip that switch anytime we wanted to go full oppressive, totalitarian government. We could just flip and then lock down. So they could do that. They could be like, we have the Marines working for us, we have all the warlords, we have the cipher poles, we have all the weapons, we have all the knowledge, we have everything. You have nothing compared to us. Your little kingdoms might have some ships, some navies. Nobody, we have everything. We own you. We own the world. Okay? So, you know, there could be a breakdown with the kings and stuff. Maybe Cobra could tell people about it, and they'd be like, what is this? What does this Gorosei? Be like, what is this? What is this? Is we wipe everything out and we start all over because we've done it before. That's what this is. You know, like, they could totally do that, and that would change the tone of the entire story right there. Like, because imagine right now the Straw Hats are in Wano, an isolated land. Imagine, it would be kind of like the same thing in Skypiea, like they were in an isolated place. Imagine they leave Wano after their adventure there, and they know nothing about what was happening in the outside world while they were having their adventure in Wano, you know, taking out Kaido and Shogun and Orochi and everybody. But then, after like 100 more chapters in Wano, they finally leave the country, they go back into the world, they get back into the information loop, and they discover that the world government went all freaking 1984 overnight. Because they could do that, totally, 100%. Like, they have the resources to do that. Like I said, it's easier to make the public like you than it is trying to just oppress them, because that's just more work they have to do, but they have the resources to do it, right? So, yeah, they could totally be doing that. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and remember, you must all consult the Magic 8-Ball. I'm not even allowed to end this video unless the Magic 8-Ball says so. Should we end this video, Magic 8-Ball? Guide us. Ask again later. I shall. Okay, it is later. Shall I end this video now, Magic 8-Ball? Don't count on it. Oh, crap. Okay, I didn't expect that. Alright, oh, okay, well, alright, what else can we talk about? Well, you know, okay, we could talk about, the abolishment of the Warlord system. I made a video about that already, but, you know, where exactly do you think the Gorosei and Im would stand on that? Because that's something that Fujitora is kind of bringing to the table. Well, here's something. What if Fujitora and Ryokyogu, they managed to, like, address the royalty, and they managed to convince, like, a majority, I don't know if it's decided on vote at Reverie, like, it's like, we now put it up to a vote, you know, should we abolish abolish the warlord system, and let's say it's like a 2/3 majority or something, like in Congress, like, you know, oh, we want to abolish the warlord system. After Fujitora presents his argument and he introduces what Vegapunk has in store, like that great invention, maybe like 2/3 of the kings at Reverie want the warlord system to end, and the Gorosei are like, oh, sure, we'll put that in consideration, but then Eam is like, there are still there. He's like the Emperor. Now I'm just viewing him like the Emperor from freaking Star Wars. Like, there is still use for them. The pirate Buggy D. Clown, in particular, is a great chess piece in my master plan. They will remain. And so the Gorosei are like, oh yes, I guess we're keeping the warlords, you know, so yeah, that's that. Okay, Magic 8 Ball, can we end the video now? Most likely. Alright, thanks, Magic 8 Ball. Have a great night, everybody. This will be Tekking, signing out.